So I also want to talk to you a little bit about the word responsibility, because it's a word that is often heard in relationships, and it's often heard around children, like you have to learn to be responsible. And I think it's super interesting to look at what the word responsible actually means. It's like the ability to respond, and we always respond to things. It's like something happens, we respond in a way. But what I think is the opportunity of real responsibility is the ability to have an experience or be triggered or meet something, and instead of react, because a reaction is to have an experience, be triggered by something, and then just react. A response, it's to have an experience, to be triggered, to let it land, and then respond in a way that kind of mirror what you actually want to be and give as a human being. For example, if you long for a more loving world or more loving and careful relationships, a reaction might not be the best way to have that experience and to give that experience. So when you get triggered, and that's why it's so many gifts in triggers, because then you will have like this opportunity again and again and again to see, kind of change reaction to response, and see, okay, how would I like to, what's the most loving way I can respond to this? So that's the difference between how we usually use the word responsible, because it's often very close attached to doing the right thing or the wrong thing, right? To be responsible often has to look in a certain way. Like a responsible person is, for example, maybe very serious, and it acts according to something that they think is right and against something that they think is wrong. But if you have that perspective, you might not be open to see what's actually happening. You might not be open to listen to what's actually said. You might not be open to see what actually happened, because you will just like make a quick screenshot, make an assumption about what's happening, and react. So in responsibility, it's a conscious way of handling, in a way, everything you see. You see something, you get curious, and you're like, oh, what's actually happening here? How can I use my curiosity to find out? How can I meet this in a way that actually feels good in me? How can I meet this child's reaction, for example, in the most loving and caring way? So instead of saying, oh, you shouldn't do like that, you know it's not allowed, it might be, that made me curious. What happened really inside of you when you did that? What do you think happens with another person when, like, how does it feel in you when things like that happen to you, for example, or it seems like you're struggling with something and I really want to understand what's happening. It seems like I don't really understand how you feel right now, and it seems like I made you feel bad, or it seems like I didn't understand, or it seems like whatever is appropriate for the situation. But the invitation is to change reaction to a conscious response. And how you know that is when you feel different inside. When you feel care instead of frustration and anger, you have a conscious response. When you feel love instead of irritation and curiosity instead of, irritation and frustration or whatever that might arise, then you get close to being able to have a conscious response to what's happening. So, something to be curious about. And it's also, a really good way of taking care of yourself. Because if we long for a world that is more careful and more loving, we can actually create that experience inside of ourselves. And when we have that experience or feeling inside of ourselves, that's also what we are going to share. Because we affect each other with our emotions and our energies and our frequencies. And the more loving frequencies we can have, the more love, obviously, in the world. So you don't really have to change the outside so much according to what you think you need to feel love and care. You can use your curiosity and change your reactions to a curious response, because it's always a reason for everything. And the curiosity is there to find out what it is. So that's an invitation for you. Can you be curious? Other than that, you know what I'm going to say? I love you.